Yo, what's good? Welcome back to another video. In this one, we're gonna make pants inspired by the brand If 6 Was 9. Now I say inspired because I'm not trying to recreate a specific pair from the brand, but I do want to take inspirations from their designs, mainly the rope fly. And I think it's perfect for the pants I'm trying to use for this video because they have like the silhouette, like the nice little slim fit to the flare, but the only issue they had was just the waist size. It's just too small. I clicked my size, but apparently it was Asian sizing, so is what it is. But I think with the rope fly design, I'll be able to salvage it. I'll still be able to wear them because I really do like how they look and how they fit on me, except for the waist. Now the rope fly isn't the only thing I'm gonna add. I'm gonna add a lot more to them. But what will I add? You'll have to stay tuned. All right, we got a lot of work to do. Let's get to it. The biggest issue, of course, was the fit of the waist. It was just way too small. And because it was out of the way of the pant legs, it was the first problem I decided to tackle, which means adding in that lace-up fly was going to be the first custom to be added in. So the first step was to remove the button and zipper fly that was currently on the pants. I wanted to make both sides of the fly even so they can come together, so I snipped off the excess length on the button side of the waistband. But the issue again is that the waist is too small, and though it can come together now, it won't be able to when I put them on. To fix the sizing issue, I plan to add in extensions to the waistband as well as the crotch area where the lace-up fly will be. But when I sewed it onto the pants and tried it on, it looked weird. It looked like I was wearing like a man thong on top of my pants. So even though I spent a couple of hours making and sewing on these extensions, what a waste of time. That did not matter at all. I removed that thing with haste. On to my second plan. Fortunately, I didn't make any cuts to the fabric on the fly area when I was gonna add in that man thong looking thing, so they can still come together. But the issue still remains, the size of the waistband. I decided to solve this dilemma by extending the waistband at both side seams and then snipping the waistband in line with these seams. So all I did was cut out denim triangle extensions with seam allowance of course, and then sew them onto each original out seam of the pants. I know it looks incomplete right now, but I'll come back to finish it later. For now, it's time to work on adding in the eyelets the rope will go through for the lace up. I didn't want the eyelet to be held down by only one layer of denim, so for security and stability, I cut out and sewed on small denim squares on the backside of where I wanted each eyelet to go on the denim. I then temporarily glued them in place and then hammered in each eyelet, making sure that they're even with each other, especially from side to side. Alright, let's go back to the side extensions. To make it look like it's not just a piece of fabric sewn on, I grabbed what's left in my spare gray denim, which by the way looks like something Balenciaga would sell, and cut off part of its waistband so I can use it to patch up the missing length of the waistband of the base denim. A lot of back and forth going on right now, but moving back to the lace-up fly. The squares I added in were held down only by glue and the eyelets, which means that they were still loose and not securely fastened. So to keep them down, I hand sewed them in with a low-key design, adding in some little details to the pants. The lace-up fly is pretty much done. The only issue is that you can see what's behind the eyelets, and sometimes if you don't close up the pants fully, you'll see what I'm wearing underneath. So in order to fix this issue, I cut up a spare back pocket into a V shape, and of course with seam allowance, to be used as like a shield. Now since it's going to scrunch up when the lace-up is tied together, I ironed the shield, making 3 new creases so it'll always fold consistently. Now that the upper portion of the pants were done, it's time to start on the lower parts, aka the legs. Like always, I released the hems on both sides and then opened up the pant legs at the inseams. The rope I plan to use for the lace-up fly was a little too bright in color compared to the pants as a whole, so I dipped it into some dye to tone it down a bit. While that was sitting, I took out my rotary tool to start the distressing process. I worked on both knees as well as below both butt pockets, not really trying to maintain all of the horizontal threads, but of course not trying to make blown out holes. Now while I was distressing, the scrapes were exposing the original color of the denim, which makes me wonder what the dyeing process was to make the pants this color. If I could figure that out, I just might do that to almost all of my jeans before working on them, because I really like this color. Ironically, I made these holes in scrapes and now I'm going to patch them up. I did a little experiment with the different colored patches for the scraped holes. I'll just say this now, it was not that successful after all of this, but I'll get into that later on in the video. I cleaned up the distressings and the loose threads on the front as well as the back by darning them down. Yeah. The last design I wanted to add to the pants was Boro. I didn't want to do the whole pant, mainly because that'll just take hella days, but just certain areas. I started off by temporarily gluing some bandanas on top of the planned area, and then sewed them down with my sewing machine in almost evenly separated vertical lines. I did this all the way from one side to the other side of the pant leg. When that was done, it was back for round 2 of distressing. So I repaired the holes, applied a new layer on top of that, and then made more holes. My goal was to make a layered repaired look, with each layer kind of blending into each other rather than looking like it was just slapped on. I said earlier that I wasn't that successful in my experiment with the different colored repairs, and that's because I was supposed to re-expose them through the bandana layer, but because I darning stitched them with black thread, it made the holes look more roughed up than I wanted, and they weren't as visible as I expected because the black thread made them darker and they blended in with everything else. The real grind starts now. Sashiko stitching, aka hand embroidery, aka sewing by hand, to re-secure the distressed layers. And because Sashiko usually goes hand in hand with Boro, I hand sewed vertical lines to add another element to the look and to sew down any loose edges from the second round of distressing. I'll be honest, as much as I like hand sewing, the time it took just to sew the amount of space I did in this video was just a little too much. Maybe I'm just getting a little bit more impatient, but I will say, my pre-workout came in clutch. It made me laser focused to the point I just finished everything in one session. I didn't sit down for I don't even know how many hours, but hey, that didn't matter because the important thing is I got it done. Finally, after all of that, I closed up the pant legs at the inseam and then rehemmed the legs, adding in another inch to the length, and then laced up the new fly with the dyed rope to complete the pants.